Welcome back to another episode of Rap Drinks. Today's guest is Script Supervisor Tony Pettine. Tony has worked as a professional script supervisor on 50-plus feature films, television productions, and commercial advertising spots. Some of Tony's work includes Fallout, Black Swan, and The Wrestler. Anthony has also partnered with software developer Bob McFarlane in creating Scripty, a comprehensive program for digital script supervision. So I'd like to welcome Tony for being on the show so we can pick his brain about being a script supervisor on set. Welcome to Rap Drinks, Tony. Cheers.
Cheers.
Pass it on.
Continuity.
This is going to be great because
the continuity's fucked already. You guys are fine. My fault.
Mike's drink is actually going to change color twice.
Yeah.
It's going to go back and forth.
And I'm going to have Gatorade when I do.
That's awesome. No,
I'm too old to be drinking bourbon at noon.
You think it's noon? Just to get started, do you think you could explain what a script supervisor is? I think a lot of people think that it's just continuity, but there's a lot more to your job than that. And then maybe
I think probably the best illustration, if you guys want to get this for the website, even to show like with the podcast. In the beginning of Pat Miller's book, she has this illustration. It's a book I read to learn how to be a script supervisor. And it's a diagram of a script supervisor sitting in the middle of the set, and the dolly grip's asking a question, the actors are asking a question, the director's asking a question, the producers are asking a question. Everybody on the film set has some continuity concern, some concern with what the script supervisor's doing. The set dressers will come over and ask you, what time is it on the clock? What month is this? Wait a minute. Should people be wearing bathing suits, or is it January? Like, what's going on? Where are we? And it comes up all the time. People don't necessarily know those things. So part of what I'm doing is helping all the departments honor the imaginary continuity of our story.
Mm-hmm.
So help everybody maintain the illusion. You know what I mean? So that's what I do.
Nice. And I get like to kind of do that on all levels. You kind of like you must be a fan of film or film history of sorts.
Definitely.
What got you interested in actually being a script supervisor?
Interesting. I spent my 20s. I graduated college in 1990. Immediately went on the road with rock bands, a couple different rock bands, as a bass player. And then my adult job was as a road manager for some bigger acts. Basically quit drinking professionally somewhere in the middle of that. And I started watching movies. I would go to, while everybody else is sleeping off a bender, I'd go watch the early show and maybe a noonday. I'd watch 2 shows at the local theater, and then be ready to go back and go on the road again. I always watch movies where I was, and I've always been a fan of film. So when I got out of the music business, I decided that's what I wanted to do. And through connections in the music business and having edited some music video and done some other stuff, I got involved in a couple Columbia grad student shoots, met some really talented filmmakers, and first went on as a sound mixer because I didn't know what a script supervisor was. Saw the script supervisor and said, I want to do that. And kind of bullshitted my way into my first job. Really did, because I did not know what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I read Pat Miller's book. I talked to a lot of dolly grips, actually. Dolly grips are incredibly smart people. I've found that dolly grips are more intuitive about performance than just about anybody else on a set. Camera operators and dolly grips. They really understand how actors move in space and what the physicality of the job is. When you cross the axis, when you do different things, dolly grips are really useful. So Arthur Blum, who's phenomenal, was one of the guys early on who talked me through some stuff about the 180-degree rule and how things, I understood it theoretically, but to understand the practicality of it, how it fits with a dolly shot,
See it actually.
how it fits with a Steadicam shot. Film school, you really are going to film school every day on a film set. If you show me somebody on a film set who's bored, and I'll show you somebody who's intellectually not curious. You need to be intellectually curious. I'm 56 years old. I learn on every single job I do. I learn something new, and I try to get better at something. Be it down to wrapping a electrical cable clockwise. Know that that's clockwise, and wrapping up a BNC cable, you go over or under.
Mm-hmm.
And like how to do the coils and things like that. Details that just make you more efficient as a human being in life. And film crews could. If there's an apocalypse, just get 10 grips and a couple camera operators, and you'll be fine.
That's something at like the beginning of the grip handbook. It's like if I was stranded on a desert island, all I'd want is a grip.
Yeah, a grip, man, you need.
To be a script supervisor, do you need a background in screenwriting?
It helps, and I do have some. I've sold 2 screenplays over the years. I did work. I have a lot of weird careers in here. I was always interested in being a writer, but more than even being a writer, I think being an editor, or being acquainted with editing principles and how an edit room works, that's more important.
Mm.
But there are a lot of script supervisors who are also writers too. Yeah. I still write. I wrote a season of a TV show called Everyday Elegance with Colin Cowie. I've sold 2 screenplays. None of them. I got the rights back to both of them.
Yeah. I only asked because I earlier when we were talking, I think you mentioned that it helps to have some idea of editing.
Yeah, editing's super important. Like, you really have to understand how things are going to cut together. A lot of script supervisors waste a lot of their mojo on arguing about shit that doesn't matter. Like, if you know how they're going to cover a scene, like if I know I'm going to get Jonathan in a clean close-up here, if I'm moving all around and stuff, as long as the elements are the same, as long as I don't have, now I started with you're going to see some shots where I had a bourbon and no water. The water was on the table. Now I got Gatorade. I think this was coming down the other side. Now I got a banana over here, a whole new rig here. I was like sandwiched in, put a 350-pound guy in this tiny little white chair, cramped up. But yeah, so it helps. Everything helps. Like, I had a music background that really helped me a lot too. I understand performance. I understand rhythm and the importance of relaxing and being in the moment and not fucking that up for an actor. You have to really respect actors and what they do, how difficult it is. And you can be a total idiot and just like, no, he's like that. Like, and you kill a performance, you're not, I'd like to think I've never done that, but I'm sure early in my career, I wasn't as good at what I do. Mm-hmm. And I would get in there and really worry about something. But if I knew how I was going to cover it, so part of what I'm doing is, like, if a director's freaking out about matching everything exactly right, and I got an actor who doesn't want to eat in the off-camera stuff, let's say, so they're not matching, so you can't really shoot him as a dirty, I'll just say, hey, look, dude, this guy's a clean single. You got to get a clean single on him. You got to get a clean single on the other guy so you can actually cut the thing together.
When you're working on weirder projects that are kind of experimenting with editing, what are you having kind of talks with the directors about, like, I'm just like, I always see these kind of weird, like, I mean, I guess horror is like a good example of where these kind of things pop up, but even Black Swan does a lot of things of her like looking in a mirror and things kind of change and jump. And
yeah,
like,
I mean, that's Darren. Darren cut the whole thing in his head, and he's a genius. He really is a smart guy.
Do you have talks about that? Like, do you know this kind of stuff going into it, that like there's going to be these weird cuts, or is that something that evolves later?
Some directors are more communicative than others. Some directors just expect you to understand it.
Yeah.
So you have to be sensitive to it and be aware of it. But because of the, I think we talked earlier about In the Blink of an Eye, which was a big book for me. I read, Walter Murch talks about how his kind of philosophy of moments in a story, the key moments in telling the story, and understanding a story as a series of magical moments. Like, a good movie has 4 or 5 moments that everybody's going to remember, and how you get there. And then the transitions is another element. Some directors are very, like I did, the great director, very talented man, a kind man, Dan Minahan, directed Halston. I did this really cool little mini series. Ewan McGregor stars in it. And Dan is just super visual, and he was critical, like matching, like we would do, like a shot of how a seashell is the inspiration for a kind of bottle, the perfume bottle, or like these forms in nature become, and it seems esoteric and kooky, and you can laugh at it, but like the beauty of it is that you see it visually cut together like that. You see one shot dissolve into another, and that's someplace where I can really help a director understand how the transitions work, and the visual transitions. Some are match cuts, some are dissolved, some are or just thematic or rhythmic cuts. Like, understand that I want to be in this big, big wide shot and then cut into a close-up on somebody's left pinky. So the directors will tell me that, a lot of times. Or a lot of times I'll just remind them of, you're cutting out of this. I've worked with great directors who are just like incredibly, like musicians, like great jazz musicians. They'll have no clue about where they're coming from in the story, which is kind of bizarre to me. But I'll say, hey, we're coming from this shot, and this was the last shot of the last thing. Like, oh, awesome. And they'll come up with some cool transition on the spot.
Hey guys, we appreciate you watching Rap Drinks, but we need your support. You can directly support Rap Drinks by buying us a beer. With your donation, we'll give you a shout out on an episode and thank you for your contribution. Your beer purchase helps support the show without relying on a ton of advertising. So use the link below to keep us hydrated. Thanks.
Man, so you have a lot of responsibility just before you even go to that extra mile of getting those extra notes. Like that must be a stressful.
And you're a department of one.
Yeah.
Not as much anymore, but
No.
I mean, largely, yeah. But on my current job, it's just me. But on Fallout, like when I did Fallout, I had 5 different script supervisors come on at different times to do second units, third units. We had 3 units going in one day simultaneously, working on, different scenes. So I have to keep track of all that, which that's fun.
I mean, I guess when you're doing that many things in one day, how do you choose where you want to be?
It's tricky.
Yeah. Because I got to assume, like, if like a new day is being established or something, you want to be there, right?
Yeah, I tend to want to take the hardest gig, but it depends. I'm getting old, so sometimes I don't want to be on the beach all day, in the sun. So
You don't do the studio days.
I'll do the studio. Give me the studio day. It's a slog. It's a long. Like when I did person of interest for 5 years. I mean, shit, that's why a lot of us were ex-athletes. I think like a lot of people in the film business were athletes at some point, or have some sort of high pain threshold. Because doing your job like that, network TV for 23 episodes is like you're done. You don't even want to answer your phone. 23 episodes is tough, man. So sometimes I would take the day where I would go do the production meeting instead and have my person. But I had a second unit guy, Jason Folk, who's doing Equalizer now. He was my main second unit guy, and he was great. He could do the production meetings for me, and I trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
And he'd keep track of the details that came up that would have to do with continuity, or would have to do with the larger story, or he'd point out problems. And then there would always be an overlap day. So Jason would come on and do my day. I had Melissa Yap working too, who's a great script supervisor. She's directing now. She directs episodes of Evil now too. She's really cool. And I've had the privilege of working with a bunch of really great people, bringing them up, starting them. So when I got started, George Camarda hired me to work on a show called Kings for NBC. And then I've had Jason, Andrea Ulrich, Veronica Muliero, Melissa Yap, a bunch of people, that I've trained or just had work for me, and then they've been able to go on and do their own shows, which is nice.
I think a lot of times you do only see one script supervisor. It's like, where do you get your training? It's like you have to have like you don't get a shadow or something like that. So even if you're coming in as a second unit or something like that, you're usually on your own, right? Like,
I mean, it's getting better because the job's getting a lot harder.
Okay.
When I started, you would never do more than 30 setups in a day. Now it's not uncommon to do 100 setups a day because it's easier to run 2-3 cameras at the same time and do these things. So a lot of script supervisors will have assistants now.
Okay.
In fact, in Europe, most of the script supervisors, and I get to see how people use this because of the software company. I get to see what are the differences in how they do the job in France and how they do the job in England, how they do the job in India. It's kind of interesting, and there are pretty significant differences in what a script supervisor does, say in France, as to what they do in America. So that's kind of cool. Like in France, the script supervisor actually keeps the camera reports.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which is really
it's
interesting.
not a second AC job. It's
No. As far as I can tell, the second AC in France just smokes.
From someone who's worked in France, that checks out. I think the first AC also smokes.
A lot of smoking.
Everyone does.
So you said they keep the records. What does that mean?
The camera reports.
The camera reports.
Camera reports
Got
themselves, they actually keep. So we built that into the software so you can do the camera reports on the software.
Got it. So
The
they
French.
like measure like the camera height and like focal distance.
Lens, filter, T-stop, ISO,
So
color
interesting.
temperature,
Yeah.
all that information. I keep track of all that shit too, but they actually keep the physical camera report. Like the camera team doesn't even keep a camera report, which is
Oh wow.
That's weird.
sort of weird to me.
Yeah.
but,
Checks out.
Yeah. But in England, the job's very different. Like they'll often have 2 script supervisors. So we've made a lot of changes to the software for how we're on Sandman season 2, I think it is. The software's being used. It's used on most TV shows now. Like I don't know, a lot. I don't know. I don't have any good metrics on it, but I know the big shows that it's on. So it's nice to see.
Okay, so let's talk about Scripty. What is it, and then what led you to making it? I guess.
Okay. It's a long story, but I'll try to give you the highlights. When I was a kid, I grew really fast. Italian, Hungarian, whatever. Just big. I was 6'2" in 7th grade. So I grew
What?
really fast and I was just a total fucking goon. Like I just couldn't, I had no coordination. And one of the things that really suffered was my handwriting. It was awful. So of course I landed the one job in the world where handwriting is important, right? But I got a typewriter when I was in 7th grade. My teacher, no, 6th grade, actually, Mrs. Prada, she gave me a typewriter because she's like, you test off the charts, you're really smart, but you write like a criminal. You know, I can't read anything. So she gave me a typewriter. I got really good at typing because it was like, you know, it was like physical. It was a manual typewriter. I'm old, so it was a manual typewriter. So long story short, I go through my whole life. I leave college in 1990. I start working in the music business because there's no work at all. So I'm traveling around with rock bands. Good way to spend your 20s. And when I decided to get out of that business and go into film and TV, I ended up being a script supervisor. And then I realized after I said that's a cool job, oh, I actually have to have legible handwriting.
Right.
So then part of it was I also had done some computer programming when I was a kid, very rudimentary. But it seemed dumb to me that a lot of the work, because a lot of the work is redundant, what a script supervisor does. You're keeping track of, not to get too in the weeds, but there's something called a facing and line pages, which are, it's like a bound script where on the left page, on the facing page, is all the camera information, director's picks, shot descriptions, notes about cutting. On the right side, there's this weird little, there's the script itself, but it has these lines going down on it. Whenever it's a straight line, it's on camera. Whenever it's a squiggle, it's off camera. If it's a line with a squiggle on top of it, it's dirty, which means you see like the back of somebody's head, but you don't see their face.
Huh.
So it's this whole thing, but it's a really tough thing to do. So a lot of script supervisors would do like a rough script and then take days when the job was done and like cleanly redraw everything in pen. And it just seemed like such a waste of time to me. Like if you could do it in a clean way the first time you did it, and a lot of the weird calculations you need to keep track of, like projected running time of the story, especially for television shows and well, even movies too. So a lot of it is math, like adding minutes and seconds, and working a 16-hour day, adding minutes and seconds, and calculating eighths of pages is a lot of wasted brain power for somebody who's got to make very important decisions about performance and subtleties of cutting. So that's why we created. I created the software. I built my own sort of systems, for years, and then I had a friend who I met through a writing group who was a real high-end computer programmer, Bob McFarland, who passed away last May. And Bob, I convinced him to come on, and first he was going to work for me, and then he was my partner because he was just so smart and so good. And then we built this system back in August of 2007. We released it, and he was working with me on. We did Accidental Husband. It was a Uma Thurman movie, and he was sitting in the tent with the computer, learning what I did for a living and figuring out. And then I designed the system how it would work. So it's standalone software. It's not using FileMaker or PDF overwrites or anything. It's actually really smart. So there's certain like aspects of a film script itself, like a final draft script, that's called there's metadata encoded in the script. So it'll tell you what's a character, what's action, what's a scene heading, and then when the revisions come in, and that's kind of the central principle of our software is use the script as your basis because everything comes from the script, and make it the basis for the database. So all the parameters of the database that hold the information are built on the script. So as the script changes, the database parameters change, and I can do my work, and it looks to me as a user like a breakdown, like facing in line pages, or like an editor's log. But I can make that instead of having to recopy my editor's log by camera roll. The software can do it for me. It put it in an XML output, put it in a CSV output, put it in there's an output we have. It's called a clip bin file, which was like our first handshake with the Avid, which is just a tab delimited file, just like an ALE. So you can get your script supervisor's notes, import them directly into the Avid, and you have their shot descriptions and their comments. You don't have to rely on some assistant editor who didn't read the script, maybe doesn't really know the movie, like what they think the shot's about. So it goes right into the workflow.
Wow.
And that's what the XMLs are about too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
How many years did you take developing Scripty, like before
6
you felt
months.
like it was ready to release?
Oh, well, you know, remember we built this thing in 2007, so iPads didn't exist. Most of our users are on iPads now. The software has gotten so much better since we started it. When we first started, it was cool and it was very reliable, which was great, but it didn't do half the stuff it does now. And as we picked up more and more users and got suggestions, plus learned the differences about how the job's done in different places and what the needs. Like for instance, BBC, they want one setup per like one scene, one shot per facing page. So we have a new sort for the BBC that just does one, you know. So that the neat thing about it is if you can get the data in there and you just care, you can actually generate different kinds of printouts based on that. So
Nice.
Our newest software is for block shooting, where you shoot 4 or 5 episodes simultaneously. And that was a big revelation, that we can actually have multiple scripts in the same file. So you can have a shot that's like the outro shot from episode 2 that becomes the intro shot for episode 3, and you can line it across 2 episodes.
Oh, that's cool.
Cool.
So that was the big innovation that we just released that version back in March, the end of March, beginning of April. And that version 3, and that's already being used on a bunch of shows.
Nice. Does I know a lot of script supervisors will take screen grabs and stuff like that from like monitors that they have. Does your software include that?
Yeah, no, we invented that shit.
Right.
That's
Fair.
that-
I guess I see it happen where like they have their own monitor and they can take a screenshot of that. They import it to ScriptE afterwards, kind of thing, just to help organize.
Nobody used to do that. You might get these thermal grabs. When I started, they would have like these heat printers that would be like, it's like a thermal grab picture, like for frame size or something. They used to print out. That's a long time.
Thermal grab? How did that even
It's like a thermal print, like it's like a cheap, almost like if you get ultrasound on a baby, you know, like that printout they'd give you of your
From,
your new baby.
Tap, they would print that out.
Yeah, it was just crap, you know.
Huh.
And well, we were shooting on film, you know, so it was like video of film, so the stop difference was always significant. So it was more like shadow vision. But all the first movies I did were film,
Yeah.
and I still do film, you know. So but the video taps have gotten better.
It's a lot better now.
They've gotten a lot better. I mean, I can see focus now in a video tap, which I never could see focus before.
How loud was that printer on set? Does the sound guy pissed off?
It's better than a typewriter.
It was. I mean, the stuff we used to do. It's funny. Like I used to take Polaroids, you know, for matching purposes. I would go take like a Polaroid photo of everybody's costume, and that's $1 a shot.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do that anymore.
No. It's even more expensive now. I feel like those photos.
Yeah,
You also used to have, I mean, before your software, like, would you use a binder? Like, what did you use as your like?
Yeah, you had a big 3 or 5 inch binder, and you would have all your paper reports in there and your script. And if you were shooting multiple episodes, you'd have to have multiple binders. So some people would have like a wagon they carried around with them while they're shooting it. Yeah. And when I stopped working analog, I had a closet in my house full of old Polaroid pictures and old scripts. And now I have now on my computer, I have every job I've ever done. This is, hundreds and hundreds of episodes of TV shows and close to 100 movies now. So it's a lot of stuff.
Were you responsible? I mean, I know the script supervisor would go and clean up the scripts and stuff. So I guess how many copies would you have of that physical paper on set? Like, because if you were on a set and you had the one thing and it started raining, like that was it, right?
Yeah, no, I keep a couple copies with me, but it was weird. I mean, there were a lot of things that were better about the old days because they didn't expect so much of us. It's kind of it's that principle where as the equipment gets better and the people get smarter about how to do the job gets harder because you can do more.
But that's your fault.
It's my fault.
Yeah, you made the software. You made the software.
Well, I mean, it's weird, but I can do if you're using our software properly and you're trained on it and you're really good at it, you can do the job that 2 people are doing somewhere else.
Do you guys do like workshop? Sure. Wow.
I do. I teach. Yeah.
Those were words.
Yeah.
Were they?
I don't do it as much as I like to because I'm working still, a lot, which I like to work, and I want to keep my health insurance. So.
Yeah.
But this year I did NABIT in Toronto. I did IATSE in Toronto, local 873, my good friends there. I went to 891 in Vancouver, did a training. I trained my local 161. I've done trainings for people. I didn't do a California training yet this year. I ran out of time because I started working again. So I'm going to go out to 871 and go visit my friends out there. But a lot of it I can do now with Zoom, which is actually really great. So I just did a training for some New Zealand script supervisors. I've done training because for the time differences,
Yeah. You don't want to do it at 3 a.m. for them.
Sometimes I do weird shit. But I try to
getting off a job.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, fuck it.
Why not? I don't sleep much. But usually I'll do, like when we were developing version 3 of the software, I have a group of beta testers around the world. So it's a bunch of users in Europe and California, Vancouver, Toronto, and New York. And so we'd all get on. We'd do 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So that would work out. Like it wasn't too late for the people in Europe, but it was, and it wasn't too early for the people on the West Coast. Somebody always gets short shift.
Right. Yeah.
But I got to be able to make the meetings. I work with a coder now. I said my business partner passed away, so I work with a coder in Pakistan, another one in India, and another, my main engineers in Taipei. So with those time differences, I'm getting up really early to work with them. Just fun. It's kind of cool. Making friends all over the world.
Yeah.
It's nice.
So you said there's like differences in France, and then you said the software is being used in India. Like, what are the differences in India? Because there's a lot of differences in India, I feel like.
The videos we get are crazy.
Yeah.
India's kooky because there's more production in India than anywhere else. Although there's some places in Africa now that do quite a lot of production too. I mean, there are pretty subtle differences. France is a big difference because they have a different. Well, here are the 3 principal differences in slating. Let's just start there. Okay. In American slating system, the slate makes some kind of sense as far as the script goes, because it would be like, if you're in scene 3, it would be 3 would be the first shot. That's what we're all used to here, and most of North America works like that. Mexico and Canada work like that too. So first shot is scene 3, take 1. Scene 3, take 2. Next setup, 3 apple, take 1, take 2. In France, they do a system where it's kind of a hybrid between the American and the British system. I'll get back to that. I'll go to the British system. The British system is just straight numeric. So it's slate 1, slate 2, slate 3, slate 4. So it has no reference at all to the story. So they have to write in their shot description what the scenes are that are included in that slate.
Oh, so like their slate is non-linear.
They're just counting the shots.
They're just counting. Yeah, they're just counting, kind of like we do wild tracks in the States, like 1001.
Wait, so it's like, it would be like 3, take 1, and then they do 3 takes of that, and then they'd move on, and it would just be
4.
Yeah.
4.
Even if the scene even if the scene is 3 days later.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's straight linear. Straight linear.
Oh my God.
The British have a lot of really weird shit in their system, and the editors are incredibly particular. But it's great because it gives me
work.
Well, it gives me work, but it also opens up new things for other script supervisors. Like, for example, like the British system, because they don't have any reference to the scene in the slate, we just automated that as an option. So you can click that box and it'll say, okay, so slate 17 is comprised of episode 101, scene 17, episode 102, scene 14. And it'll just automatically put that in. So it saves the script supervisor writing all that crap. It makes the system more efficient and more just kind of like natural. That's the whole goal is to make the software make you more efficient at your job. Not make you have a whole bunch of new boxes to fill in.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right.
And then what's the hybrid version?
The hybrid French system, which I think is probably the best, is it'd be like scene 3. The first shot of scene 3 is 3/1. And then the second shot of scene 3 is 3/2. So there's never anything skipped. There's no letters skipped or anything like that. It's just straightforward. So 3, scene, shot 4, take 1. 3, shot 4, take 2. Like that. It's pretty straightforward how it is. So it has a reference to the scene in it. It's straight numeric on top of that after that, and it makes sense.
Interesting.
To somebody.
Well, and
Yeah.
now
To the French.
no, you want to get really inside baseball. Now it's gotten even more complicated because of this multi-episodic slating that we're doing now. So now, like on my current show, we're shooting a block of 2 episodes, and they don't renumber the scenes in the story.
Right.
So, like some jobs used to put in like 1.1 for episode 1, scene 1. Now we just infer it and we write it in the slating. So if I'm doing a shot for episode 2, scene 33, it would be 2. We're using a hyphen now. 2 hyphen 33. So scene 33, episode 2. That's just geeky.
Right. But well, yeah, I guess it's like that's something that you deal with way more often because that's what like this whoever's slating is coming to the supervisor
Yeah.
to say what am I
Camera
writing down?
and
Yeah.
sound is coming to Script
Yeah.
Supervisor.
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah. So it's really up to you to like if they're doing a pickup or something like that. That's when you guys are the ones that put this on the slate, and I'll reference what that actually means.
You get people asking you questions all day long. So I never go to lunch,
Right.
just because nobody can ask.
Yeah.
me a
Rolling
question.
lunches have been great for departments that like you guys.
No, I like everybody get the fuck off set and let me do my job.
He just doesn't, he doesn't go to lunch. He doesn't.
I do not go.
he goes
Obviously, I don't
somewhere
skip a lot of meals, so I have a PA bring me lunch.
Yeah.
Is that your time to like basically regroup and like catch up on notes?
Yeah, it's a lot of things. It's like it's just my quiet time. Also, I'm running a company from set, which is stupid. So I do tech support and other stuff at lunch. I have a friend I have an employee who does tech support for me, who's another script supervisor in England, Jessica Leander. She's great, and she's helped with that's the neat thing is that so many script supervisors are just such smart people. It's kind of humbling, like to think, because you all get cocky when you're young. You think, oh, I'm the best at my job. I got the best way of doing this. And you realize real quickly there are people that are way smarter than me out there. And I learn from them. So, Jessica's great at what she does. And she's been helping me with the website and other stuff. And she does tech support for me. She's infinitely more patient than I am because, most tech support is turn it off, turn it back on again. Have you updated your version number?
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Things like check the cables. Okay.
Is your software is it a purchasable software or is it a subscription?
We've gone over to subscription just because you have to constantly update it.
Yeah.
Apple they make great machines, but they're a pain in the ass with their OS updates, constant OS updates. We're always fixing the software to work with the new. And you'll see a lot of times with hardware, even like any peripheral, like all of a sudden some peripheral that you use every day doesn't work with the new operating system.
Mm-hmm.
So we really try to keep ahead of that and be responsive to it.
Is it Apple only?
Yeah, I had a PC version.
Just checking.
No, I had a PC version of Scripty, but it was just too few people using it.
Mm-hmm.
They just weren't good at doing what we needed them to do. They weren't reliable. There's too many inconsistencies between like a Dell and an Acer and getting video capture and things. They're just wonky. And it just didn't work. Plus, nobody would update their operating systems in PCs.
Right.
And you need to update your and with Mac, pretty much they built it in so you have to kind of update after. You can't really linger past 1 or 2 major updates. You have to kind of update. So that keeps it consistent. But yeah, so mostly it's all Mac now. It's about half and half Mac laptop and iPad.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, their environment is more popular with our people on film, like over
snooty film
Windows.
people.
Yeah.
iPads and Macs, and iPad's really a perfect tool for a film set because it's compact.
Yeah.
They're pretty hardy actually.
It's kind of just like everyone on film set has an iPad now.
Yeah.
Like lighting department has an iPad.
Well,
You guys have an iPad.
Yeah, I mean, I see all the best boys have like Time Card Buddy now, so they all do their time cards on and then we already interviewed Jeff, so it's like a lot of people are using them for their boards now, and now
Not a lot of people. Everybody.
Everybody.
Everybody. Nobody has a regular old board anymore.
Yeah.
And they're working with Asteras and these crazy lights. It's like there's
It's just the dolly grip now. They just need an iPad to control the dolly.
Well, they can start using it as their monitor, so they just have the iPad Mini.
I
strapped
have
to
seen
their-
that. I
Yeah.
have seen that.
Yeah.
Boom up.
But there's a delay on it because of the Teradek. So,
Right.
going off the track. You gotta be careful.
Well, you can get a dongle with an HDMI feed, so
Right, straight from the
Just
camera
a
on the front of the
long
dolly.
HDMI.
There you go.
How big is your subscription base right now for Scripty?
Well, we have about 500 users now for version 3, but we have over 5,000 users around the world for our software. The version 2 is the one that's been out for the longest, the multi-unit, which enabled you to share files with multiple units. This new one is still a new release. It's only been a few months, but it's already up to 500 subscriptions.
Wow.
Which is nice.
Cool.
Do you know how many script supervisors there are in the U.S.? Like, is
In the
there-
world.
Well, in the
In the
world,
world.
in the world, it's tricky because a lot of people go back and forth. It's not like a career for a lot of folks. But we figure there are about 7,500 working script supervisors in the world. And over the years, about 5,000 people have purchased our software or subscribed to our software.
That's cool.
Is that the name of it everywhere around the world, Script Supervisor, or does it have different names? Like how an electric here is an electric, and then there's Spark in England, or
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the name of our company is Scripty, which
oh, I mean like the
for
job
the actual
role.
job role?
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The name of the company is ScriptE, but in France, the job is ScriptE. It's spelled exactly the same. We capitalize the E for electronic. Very, very
Oh,
clever.
I like that.
But I found out after I did that some people are like, no, we're a supervisor. We can't be called. A lot of people found Scripty to be derogatory,
Yeah.
which was
I know
hilarious.
some people like that.
You know what? I was a sergeant at arms at Local 161 for a long time. They definitely unload the short bus at those union meetings. There's some real scary folks. I love my sisters and brothers in Local 161, but we're all weirdos, and everybody's going to get upset about something.
No, it's true. I guess it's if when you make the name of your department nickname right off the bat,
Mhm.
then I think to those people it takes away the fact that you are technically a department head.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
That I don't know.
But then again, I found that a failure to have a sense of humor about your life is a big problem for a lot of people. I don't know. Look, man, I have the ultimate respect for script supervisors and the position. And when people ask me about my job, I'm a script/continuity supervisor.
Mhm.
I'm never a scripty, but the name of the company was
Yeah.
derived from the French word for the job and also a little play on that with the electronic.
Nice. Okay. You mentioned patience a little while ago. Can you talk a little bit about how a lot of people may not care about the effort that you put into your job sometimes? Where it's like it's like you have to have you have to care about what you're doing. You have to keep these things in order, but it's also very easy for somebody above you to just blow off what you're saying and say it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, continuity's for queers. They
Yeah.
say that all the time. I've heard them say that.
God.
Said it to me. Continuity
You're
for
a big
pansies.
dude.
I said, well, okay. Well, here's one queer here who's saying, yeah, probably not a good idea to do that. You're the one who's going to look like. Look, my job is to make the director not look like a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
I don't want him. I want him to be able to use the performance, or So, like I said before, you protect the script, you protect the story, and you protect the great performance. So, if there's a great performance, and in the great performance, the actor is scratching their beard with their right hand the whole time, you got to make sure that when you do all the coverage, that you got at least some ins and outs to get into that shot,
Right.
or you're kind of boned. You have to go to a cutaway. You have to do other stuff. So, yeah, people say all kinds of horrible shit to you. You have to just let it go.
Were you able to do that from the beginning, or was it something you had to learn?
It was hard. At the beginning, it was hard because it was like my first day on a union show, like the Teamsters fuck with me mercilessly. I was doing this big union show, and I'm from Philly originally. So like when people say they're going to, they start threatening you, they're going to punch you,
Right.
It's like that kind of vibe. And I had Teamsters just fucking with me over shit. And, I threw down. I was like, all right, let's go, motherfucker, right now. Like, come on, man, bring it on. And they just laugh. Cause like in New York, everybody just talks shit all the time. And
Yeah.
it's funny. I'm not used to that.
Yeah.
But the same thing with directors. I mean, some directors are awful. Like most aren't. Most are wonderful.
Mhm.
But they're under a ton of stress, and I appreciate that. So, I mean, if somebody's short with me or mean to me, I just try to let it go and just say,
Yeah.
look, it's not like if you take shit personally, you're going to be it's a hard career.
Right.
You have to learn to, but then again, you also have to have respect for yourself too.
Yeah.
You know, you can't at a certain point. Somebody can't, you know, like you can't talk to me like that. Why? Because I'm going to knock you on your fucking ass.
Yeah.
I don't
Right.
mind. I've said that to some, you know, I've said that twice. And both times the directors called me back to work again because they respected me because I wouldn't put up with their bullshit.
Right.
You know, they recognized they were being a bully. There's nothing worse than being a bully. Like people who are bullies, they have all that power. That's just not cool to do to a crew.
Mhm.
It's a hard job. All our jobs are hard.
Yeah. Don't make it harder.
Yeah. Be respectful, you know. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think like a big thing is like you do have to let things like roll off your back. Like
Sure.
some things get said in the heat of like
Yeah.
the
totally.
battle, you know,
Mhm.
and you can't like take that personally. You
For
just
sure.
gotta like get
Yeah.
through it.
It's like if you're married, you know, you want to want to win the fight or you want to stay married.
Yeah.
You got to kind of figure it out. And also you got to pick your battles, you know. You also got to know like if the director's on a thing and she or he, you know, they really don't want to be bothered, you got to let them go, but then you got to find your moment to come in there and say, okay, like we need this shot
Right.
in order to use that great thing
That you just got.
Yeah.
that you just got because
You-
it doesn't match anything else we did.
You've been here for 5 seasons and they've come in to do 1 episode.
Well, on
in the
TV
4th
especially, like you
season.
can't like you know, well, why can't he do that? Because he's right-handed, and we know he's right-handed, and he can't do that. He's not going to write with his left hand. That's why. You know,
That's how they found out he was the murderer because he kept
Exactly.
switching hands.
I mean, you know how many? But I guess the hardest thing about the job, like especially when you're doing TV, is like I remember shooting an operating scene, in a serious scene, like they're operating on somebody, and the doctors are talking. The director's like, they got to get rid of this fucking mask. I can't see what anybody's saying.
Mhm.
They got an open chest cavity. They're not going to have, you know, their mask. They took their fucking masks off and did
Right.
the scene. And I had to sit there and just shut up about it. At a certain point, it's tough.
Yeah.
And, you know, don't take the next season.
I will- Not that this is the same thing at all, but we just watched Fall Guy the other day, which was a really fun movie, especially for people that work in the industry. But there are things that happen in that movie that you're like, please do not make people think that this is how the film industry works because it does not fucking work this way. There's one, like, he's obviously a stunt guy, but they keep doing burns and he's not wearing any face coverage.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like a huge safety risk. Like, you can't just tell people that they can light each other on fire just willy nilly. Like, there's a lot of steps they take to do these kinds of stunts. And I was like,
That's a fun
yeah,
movie.
it was cool to watch, but there were just some things I was like, you got to do better than that. I'm sorry.
When you're in those situations when you're like you're obviously putting the story in the script as a priority, and I think you kind of touched on this already, but then you have a director that has an idea, has a vision about this story, and they didn't write the script, they're just coming in to kind of do the vision. Which side do you feel like you have to sort of protect or help out the most?
It really depends on the situation. I mean, because sometimes it's funny. Every job is really different. Like in television, often the writer is there. So you can actually have a lot more freedom with the dialogue if the writer's there because they're like, yeah, it doesn't matter. Like that's better what he said. But if the writer's not there, then you want to try to protect at least the director so that they at least get what's scripted at least once so they can cut it together that way if they want to. Or, you know, if like when I did movies with Darren, you know, it was like he would rehearse the hell out of stuff, completely rewrite the scene in the rehearsal, and I would keep track of everything. And then that was the scene. But there might be, you know, 1 or 2 lines from the original script that's in that one scene because they'd find the scene. Or there might be 30 takes, and then on the 30th take, some accident happens, and he just loved that. And we'd match to that. You know, we'd have to go back and match to that.
Can you talk a little bit how like improvised lines fit into a script? Like,
It's tricky. It's like rhythm. It's like dances or sports. Like if you learn a sport, like if you know, like or say like a dance, like you know you got to get on beat 3, you got to be there. On beat 2, you got to be here. So you hear actors talk about beats of a scene, like elements of a scene. So if you can understand a story rhythmically, like you can understand the performance rhythmically, you know that okay, they might have 3 different jokes at beat 3. You need 3 different punchlines or maybe multiple variations on punchlines for those beats. And you got to kind of keep track of things that way. So you got to get the actors physically from one place to another. And actors are really good about matching, for the most part, you know, their bodies, what they do with their bodies and stuff. But sometimes they need a little help. You can point it out. And, you know, if they're finding a scene, then they'll they might need a little reminder. Like, well, that's when we found it. It was here. That's the performance that they really like. So on that one, you were sitting like this. You were leaned over this way. So just little things like that.
During the writer's strike, we were obviously still shooting, but there was a lot of like, well, you can't shoot that because that's not in the script that's submitted. But if they're improv lines like that, how do you submit that kind of thing?
You couldn't write like, well, the wrestler we shot during the first writer. Well, the first, I don't know how many writer strikes there were, but
2008.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
You know, we technically couldn't rewrite the scene, but the actors improvised and we, shot. Nobody's going to tell Mickey Rourke what the fuck to say.
Yeah.
You can try.
So then you then have to add. Do you have to then add that to the script,
Yeah.
or do you just add the notes?
You don't have to. Some script supervisors don't, but I do. I keep like a I'll create, and that's one of the functions in Scripty, is I can make a margin note as to what the new dialogue is, and then I can actually just modify the body of the script so that the editor is seeing what the director wants, the lines the director wants in the right placement.
Yeah.
That takes a little bit of work after the fact, but that's
Yeah.
one of the things I pride myself on, giving the editor the actual dialogue, or at least an approximation of the actual dialogue the director wants.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, your job is it's a very meticulous job. I'm curious do you decide based on the script if you're going to do a job, or do you just take any kind of work that comes your way? And then how do you determine whether or not you're going to work on a shoot based on the script?
Well, that was good advice I got early on. So always read the script, and if you like the script, I've turned down really cushy gigs because the scripts were shit. Life's too short. I'd be a fucking stockbroker if I just wanted to make money. So
Yeah.
I really try to, and I recognize that not everybody has the luxury. I'm old and I've been doing it a long time. And I certainly have done some jobs that I'm not proud of early in my career, but I also did a lot of great jobs early in my career too, because I always read the scripts. And I took a couple of times, I took lower money gigs. Like I gave up a really cushy TV job to go do Black Swan, and I wasn't getting my full rate on Black Swan. It was still an art house movie, So yeah. I've done like Roger Dodger. It was like a non-union. I was a union script supervisor. I went back to non-union world because I just love the script so much.
How do you get the script? Like, I guess because you're applying for the job, right? Do you just say, "Hey, I want to read this," or
I never apply for
they
jobs.
come to you?
They come to you. It's like dating. Nobody wants to talk to you if you're out soliciting for dates.
Okay.
I'll roll a lock you. You're pretty. Would you like to go out with me? No.
So is it a lot based on like your previous works? People like that. Is that really important for your position?
I mean, I had no clue. I did apply when I started. I was very like, you got to send your resume and everything. And then I was early on in my career, and I put in used to get the mayor's office of film television. I don't know if that still exists, but I sent my resume to all the UPMs, and I sent in my resume for this one job, and I didn't hear from him, didn't hear from him. And then I got a call, like really close to production, from UPM. And they're like, "Oh, we're hiring for this job." And I said, "Yeah, oh, you got my resume?" He's like, "Oh, what do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I sent my resume." She goes, "Oh, we throw everything that comes in right in the garbage. Like, you got to be referenced by somebody else. Like, it's all your word. I mean, this business, it's all word of mouth and your reputation. So you hopefully bust your ass and do well on a couple of jobs, and people keep calling you back. You end up working with the same people over and over and over again."
So I guess in that same vein, do you have any advice for somebody that is trying to break in that doesn't have the resume behind them? Like, how do you get started?
Well, a lot of times you can do second unit for somebody bigger. That was a good way to get started. I didn't have that option. Read the script, do jobs that are worthwhile that people have heard of, so that when they see that on your resume, they might be more likely to call you. But just do a really good job, and it's all your name and your reputation.
Right.
Just get your foot in the door however you can and do a good job. That's it. Show up early. It pays off.
Yeah.
And work hard. And I think that's really the best thing in anything. And it's like the same way you guys all get hired, as a grip or an electric, or anybody gets hired. I don't feel that there's no magic, there's no agent out there who's going to get you work as a script supervisor. They're going to just cold call everybody on the mayor's list. But if you did a good job for a UPM, they'll recommend you to somebody else. That's all.
So did you decide to take on Black Swan because you already knew who Darren was, or did
Well, I'd
you?
already done one movie with him.
Oh right,
Yeah, I'd done the wrestler.
the
with him at
wrestler.
that point,
Yeah. And so I'm curious, like, do you have other, like, is Darren one of your favorite directors? Or do you have other directors?
He's one of the
you
most
work
talented directors I've ever worked with by leaps and bounds. He's super talented, and you know, I enjoyed working with him. That was hard. He's a hard director too. He's not
Yeah.
easy. He's intense, but
Mhm.
I did enjoy it, and I think those are two of his best movies. I'm really proud of the work we did.
And did he call you back? Because he was like, man, you're the only one that can work with me.
I don't think he thinks about his script supervisor that much. But you know, it was,
Maybe his UPM thing said, like, we need you.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. You know, it's I try not to think about that stuff. I just come back. It was honored to come back and do that was a great movie. I'm really proud of it.
Experience groundbreaking cinema on MUBI with the stunning 4K restoration of Tarsem Singh's The Fall. Filmed over 4 years in 28 breathtaking locations and starring Lee Pace, it's a monumental production that transcends genres. For a limited time, you can try MUBI free for 30 days at mubi.com/shittyrigs.
You tell me the story now.
Close your eyes.
I know we talked about this before, like recording the podcast. Your relationship with Wes Craven. I
Yeah.
know you have an interesting story about like him reaching out to you to work on this film, but there was no script.
It was the first time I took a job without having read the script because there wasn't a script. Yeah.
Can you talk to us about that experience?
Yeah, it was crazy. I was on another job in Connecticut, and I got a call from Wes's producer, which was nice. Like when I get a lot of calls from producers now because it's an important job, you know,
Mhm.
like especially when it's maybe a director's doing a stretch for themselves, doing something they haven't done before or whatever. So I got the call and I'm like, yeah, Wes Craven, sure. I'm interested in working with Wes Craven. Can I read the script? Well, yeah, we're going to get you a script. Okay. Kept coming. Well, we'll set up an interview. Okay. I'll get you a script as soon as I can. And the interview got set up and we're like 2 days from the interview and I still don't have a script yet. And I called and said, yeah, he hasn't really finished the script yet. So just come down. He just wants to meet you. It's going to be fine. And I came down and had a lovely meeting with him. And I was working on a job in Connecticut, so I had to take the train down from wherever the hell I was, in New Haven, I think, and down into Grand Central, get my ass all the way downtown to his hotel. He's there, and he proceeds to leisurely tell me the entire story of the entire
You're writing the
story.
script as
It was great, and he was a lovely man. Anybody who worked with him will tell you, like he was just lovely and really charming and funny, and incredibly kind, like very kind and gentle. Which for a guy who does horror movies is funny, but. I'm sitting there like sweating bullets, like I'm not going to make it back to get my train to get back and work because I got to go back and have like a 1 o'clock call in New Haven. But I did it, I made it, and and it was good that I had that meeting with him because then I took the gig. He hired me on the spot. It was really nice, and then I finally get the script, and a lot of the stuff he said wasn't in the script. And eventually, almost all of it made it back into the script. But, that was just his process.
because you had the notes from the meeting, like what he was originally thinking, kind of thing.
No, I just had the memory of it. I
Mhm.
didn't take notes during the meeting.
Fair.
But,
Oh, wow.
yeah, no. And it was like, these little details, but it was fun. That was unusual. But I've heard other jobs like that. Like a lot of these jobs are so secretive, they don't give you a script to read.
Right.
Which is just silly to me. But,
I mean, yeah, because it's a really collaborative process in the end. Like,
right.
especially what you do, because you're like you said, you're trying to protect the story, right?
Well, it's right in the name. You are the script supervisor.
Why
You
wouldn't
need
they
to have
give you
access
the script?
Some of these jobs,
Like, we're not going to give the actors the script until the day of.
Well, that's kind of like
that's
they're-
what like Woody Allen wouldn't give the actors a script. Just give them their pages. That was it.
right. So they only know what they're
okay.
saying. They
Yeah.
don't know what other people are saying.
They don't know they just know their moment. He'll tell them what they thought was important.
Have you had anything? Have you worked on any projects where there like is a major secret that like only one person knows about, but you also know?
Oh yeah, many.
Yeah.
And I've had to work on TV shows. This is really hard. Where I've broken down the next 3 episodes, and I know that this actor who I love is going to die in the next episode. I mean, he's going to get. It's like
Brutal.
it's awful. It's awful to know that, and
Yeah.
and get a call from the showrunner and just be like, "Hey, you can't tell them this.
Mm,
I don't want it to affect their performance in this episode.
Right.
Like, they can't know they're going to die in the next That's hard.
Yeah,
That's hard.
because I'm sure you have relationships with these people just as much as
Yeah. And you get to, and it's such a I have so much respect for actors because it's so vulnerable, you know, like nobody deals with more rejection. Nobody deals with, and big name actors like Chris Walken's been fired from jobs. Robert De Niro's been fired from jobs. Like nobody's untouchable, and everybody knows about it when you get fired from a job.
Right.
You know, it's hard. So yeah, I mean, I have so much respect, and I try to treat them with kindness and protect them. You know, so.
I also feel it's hard for them, like in this like network TV life, because a lot of them coming up, they get their like one shot for their lines, and we have so many cameras now that it's like they do it one time. Like,
Oh yeah,
there's like this build up to getting on set. They say their line to the main talent, or if they're just a supporting, and then they're like, "Good, we got it. Move," and you're like,
What?
"What happened?" Like, I
Yeah.
just did it for 5 minutes, and they're like, "Good."
or they don't get a close up at all.
Yeah, exactly. And they're
Like,
like,
when
"We
was
sh-
my close up? Oh, well, we panned over to you for your line. That
Yeah.
was it. We're done. Well, I didn't know you panned over to me. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I've been on jobs where like they'll say, you know, I know it's written with a Russian accent, but can you do it with a German accent?
Like on the day.
Like on the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
On the day.
Oh,
I've seen all
man.
kinds of crazy shit. And actors, you know, to their credit, can usually do it. Like they can usually, sometimes it's the worst when they get in the flop sweat and they can't, and you got to kind of love them through that too.
Yeah.
I've been there. You're gonna take 5 minutes. We're gonna go work on this. It's hard. It's a hard gig.
Yeah, and you're in the center of it too, because you basically collaborate with all the departments where you are
Yeah.
too.
Well, time is so important with what we do. So if somebody's not getting it,
Mhm.
you know, I've even had this conversation, and this is, I maybe shouldn't say, I won't give you any details, but
Yeah.
I had the director lean over and say, "Hey, I'm recasting that actress there, so make sure I get this thing covered so I can come back and shoot the close-ups on another actor."
Wow.
And we'll do one take of their close-up, you know what I mean, just for
Yeah.
framing and lighting and reference, and actors usually don't know, but it's happened 3 or 4 times to me.
Wow.
Where I'm shooting an actor out, and they're basically just, you know, a stand-in. And they don't know it.
For their oh man.
And you shoot, especially on pilots. That happens on pilots a lot. They'll the
Right.
studios want to put their finger on it. They recast roles in big shows, you know,
That's
after the
crazy.
pilot. I mean, who was the first?
I guess that's true. They did that in Back to the Future, right?
Yeah.
They
Right.
recast.
Done it in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Apocalypse Now.
They recast someone.
Yeah,
in
who was
Apocalypse?
the lead in Apocalypse Now originally?
Originally?
Yeah,
I don't know.
big actor, Academy Award winning actor. Got shit canned. Harvey Keitel.
What?
Really?
Harvey Keitel was the lead. Just wasn't working out. Francis didn't like it. They shot, I don't know how long. And then they redid it.
That's a different movie.
Yeah, no.
That's
I
nuts.
mean, and then, you know, the new lead, he had a heart attack about, 6 months into shooting or whatever. So I don't know the whole story. I got to watch the documentary again, but watch that documentary. It's
Mhm.
crazy, man.
I mean, imagine being the script supervisor.
Oh my god.
I can do that very well. I might be old. I'm not quite old enough to have
Especially
done that.
before the iPad. Like,
We talked about this very briefly earlier, but like the 180-degree rule.
Sure.
Can you explain what that rule is? Because we have a lot of viewers that are like just learning how to get in the industry, and there are some people that have been in the industry and probably don't know. Sometimes I get a little confused. Like,
yeah, there's some directors you don't know.
yeah, what is the 180-degree rule? And then I guess what's your sort of responsibility in protecting that rule?
Well, you don't want to embarrass anybody for sure.
Yeah.
But you want to make sure that the coverage cuts together. So one of the nice things about the system that I've developed is I'm taking frame grabs of like when I do your close up, I can lay your close up next to my close up. And so even if somebody doesn't really get their head around the 180-degree rule, if I lay the two photos together, we can look like we're looking at each other, then it cuts together. If we look like we're looking at the same thing, like, oh, now Jonathan and I are both looking camera left. We're looking at a car wreck off camera somewhere. We're not looking at each other and talking. It's kind of weird.
Mm.
But in a nutshell, the 180-degree rule, to explain it, would be if you were to take a laser beam that cuts through skull and flesh. I put that laser beam in the back of my head and it runs through my head and through your like pineal gland right there through between your eyes. The camera can only stay on one side of that line that goes behind you and behind me and through us. If the camera's on this side of it, everything should cut together in some way or another.
Okay.
Maybe not be aesthetically pleasing, but it will cut together and people understand what's going on. So that's that 180 degrees of space, because film is a 2-dimensional medium. That is the 180 degree rule. So if I can put the master shots there, I can put my bourbon down for a second. Put the camera here to shoot your close up. The second I put the camera on this side of my head to shoot your close up, you're looking now camera right instead of camera left, and you're looking camera left in the master shot. So that's it in a nutshell. It gets infinitely more complex with table scenes, because there's new 180 degree rules being 180
Like for
degree
each
lines,
pair of people.
each look.
Yeah.
You know, I might look across camera for one thing, like there's somebody coming in the room, you know, over there, and I have a line to them. Then I'm now, instead of looking camera right to you, I'm looking camera left to you over there. Well, in the main camera, anyhow.
Yeah. And you can in a way move the line if like you change the blocking in a scene too, right?
Yeah, it moves with the looks. The
Yeah.
eyes are what determine it.
And you can move like if you're physically moving the camera across the line, you can kind of
Yeah, you can do it
break
in the
that
middle of a
rule.
shot. And
Yeah,
when-
yeah.
That's one of the things I note. I'll put a little X in the line and mark it to what word. So if I'm doing like a semicircular dolly shot, or just a dolly shot that tracks behind, starts over Mike's right shoulder and then moves over to my left shoulder, right?
Mhm.
At what point in the dialogue does the axis switch? So Jonathan's looks to Mike when the camera's here are going to be camera right, and to me they're going to be camera left. And when the camera gets here, you're looking to both of us camera right. And so I have to do a corresponding dolly shot on the other side that times out with the dialogue, which is fun.
Oh, interesting.
How do you learn all that? Or is that just like learned through repetition? Because blocking is still to this like complex blocking where you have like 6 to 8 people and they're entering and exiting. It does
It
kind
gets
of
complicated,
it just blows my mind
You
sometimes.
have to identify the key beats of the scene.
Yeah.
And then once you've identified the key beats of the scene, it's a lot easier. So I know at one point there's a key line where Jonathan and I are locking eyes and we're talking. And that moment, the camera's here on him instead of here. I know that when I cover that beat of the scene, I need to be there. So I need to keep track of that.
Mm.
And I have a kind of visual way of writing it that I understand it. But by the same token, every rule is there to be broken. So
Right.
sometimes you can break it. Like there's great moments of breaking the 180 degree rule that are really powerful. The examples I like to use are Full Metal Jacket. There's a great scene, you know, where the drill sergeant guy and the recruits,
Mhm.
right? You know, where you from, boy? From Texas. Ain't nothing but steers and queers from Texas. You know, that whole scene, back and forth. They shoot his coverage, low angle on one side of the line, and then they shoot the recruit's coverage from the other side of the line, high angle. And it's this disconcerting feeling of like something's wrong. Like I'm totally powerless. Like what's going on? Another great moment. Kubrick was master at so many things, was in the bathroom scene in The Shining. I use that when I teach script supervision too. There's a scene where Jack Nicholson follows the bartender into the bathroom. He's cleaning up in the bathroom, right? And he's like, you're the innkeeper. And then he goes, no, Mr. Lawrence, you're the innkeeper. And he hands him a towel, jump to the other side of the line.
Mhm.
And it's just like, oh my God, the whole world's changed.
It's like a revelation kind of
Like-
thing. It's like you use it to jump it
It's
as
a device. Yeah.
Yeah.
you're
that's
this murderous devil. No, you're the murderous devil.
Right.
We're on this side of the line. And that's powerful.
That's cool.
Like I say with my kids, it's like cursing. Like, you know, like you got, it's like my favorite, my daughter was like, they're good kids, you know, like really good. She's really little. We're driving and she's like, and somebody cut us off or whatever. She's like, oh, Dad, can I curse? Can I curse? I said, if it's the right word to say, yes. That guy's a douchebag. You're so happy with herself. And we laughed. But yeah, it's like the thing. If it's the right tool at the time, so it's a subtle thing. Now, if you get somebody who just throws the camera around willy-nilly, doesn't have any care, it's just sloppy.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense and it's confusing. And sometimes it's good to be confused. Like if you have somebody who's lost in the woods and you want to have them cross out left, cross back in right, like all that stuff, that's fine. But if you want to have a linear sense of a journey, it's important that they go from left to right. You know?
I guess if you're not paying attention, it's helpful for those reasons because it doesn't make you feel
What gives you the subconscious feeling of a journey moving in one direction?
Yeah.
It makes sense. It's not aimless.
right.
Like I'm on a quest. I'm going from right to left.
What's the Western thing? It's like the good guys always entered from the left and the bad guys entered from the right because it's like it was like weird to watch somebody walk in that
It's
way.
like how you read. You read left to right. So
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's different in
maybe
in a
it's
Muslim
different.
country where they read the other way.
Right.
Or in Japan where they're reading top to bottom.
Yeah.
All the good guys coming from the top.
That's why they would, the superhero
Why the
landing.
ninjas are always coming in from the top, bro.
That's why ninjas drop from the sky.
Do you, just because, I mean, now we're bringing up another country again. Do you speak other languages?
I understand Italian
Uh-huh.
a little bit. I can order a meal in most countries, but Spanish I can understand probably a lot better than I think I can. Enough just because our country's got a lot of Spanish speaking people around.
Mhm.
But I took Spanish and Italian in school, but I French. No, I have no fucking clue about French.
So if you have, because I don't know, you talked about switching a Russian accent to a German accent. Like I feel like most movies have at least like if they have somebody with an accent, there's probably lines in that movie that are also in another language. Like, do you have a translator helping you with that kind of stuff?
There's usually like a dialogue coach
Mhm.
that'll be there, like a language specialist. Like on Person of Interest, like we'd always have, like any big show, they would have, if there were Russian speakers or Ukrainian speakers, there would be a coach there, and they would tell you, no, that pronunciation was no good. Like you got to use this one.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you work with them. Same thing with music or dance, or anything that's like a skill outside. Luckily, I have a lot of, like I can read a score. So when I do a musical, I'm a musician too. So I can read what's going on and I can follow in the score. Now that's the seventh measure. It's the upbeat after the beat 3.
Right.
I can follow that stuff. I don't know. Yeah, but there's always somebody there to help you. And if you don't know, like medical terms, things like that, I can always, there's pronunciation guides right on the internet. I learn, teach some, surfer from Malibu County how to say episiotomy properly, in a medical drama.
What's the most amount of takes you've been a part of? Like for one shot? Because this is always interesting to me because there's some directors that just like.
I'm going to answer this with a caveat.
Okay.
I will not ever tell you what show it was 147 takes.
What?
Usually it cuts off before.
Did you make your day?
We did make our day.
That's why.
Wow. 147 takes for the same setup.
Same setup. It was a 2-camera setup, but yeah.
Was it?
No,
scene?
no,
He's-
guessing,
he's-
no.
he's guessing the show.
Let me see this. Did it involve something that like had like something had to explode or in timing, or is it just something else?
I don't think
I'm
they
not going to
bring-
give you any details.
God damn it. God damn it.
But usually, like, it 40.
We're gonna scan your IMDb.
30 or 40 is usually the limit. Like we just did. I'll tell you one that was very impressive. In the new Smile movie, we do this. The opening shot of the movie is incredible, but we rehearsed it for a whole day before we actually even shot it. So it's a doozy.
Mhm.
We spent 3 days shooting the first shot.
Wow. Yeah. That's like, I mean, I feel like oneers have become those things that like a lot of people remember. Like it's a staple shot in a lot of movies. Like Children of Men is like one of the great examples.
It's a great
where
shot.
people are like,
I had to study that movie.
right.
Yeah,
But so it's like people remember that kind of thing. Do you have to do any sort of like special prep when you're doing like a big long oneer?
Don't fuck up. I did a movie with Alan Rudolph. I don't know if you guys see the movie The Player, another great movie about the
Yeah.
film business. So remember that great shot at the beginning of The Player?
Yep.
He's the last shot, the last moment in that shot. Not unlike Citizen Kane meets not unlike the Manchurian Candidate meets Citizen. What is the line? I can't remember the line. Good thing, but he's the end of that shot.
Mm-hmm.
So no, it's like a dance. You just rehearse it.
Yeah,
it's like a play.
I guess you probably work you work closely with everybody, but VTR and like video playback kind of people, those must help. They must have changed your job a lot.
Oh, a good video playback person's amazing. It can be really helpful. A lot of times, video playback can get in the way because people are spending a lot of time.
Everybody
watching
wants to
over and
see
over
it.
again, and like if you have a producer village that's just play that funny thing where their pants fall down again, like just watch it over and over again. But no, a good video playback person can really help you with transitions. Like I'll tell them when I have that person, I'll give them the key moments and mark them so that we can get back. And the new systems, the Raptors and the Q takes, really great. Like you can do cool stuff. On the Smile movie, we did a lot of complicated shots that stitch together, so they appear like they're one shot, but they're really multiple shots. So good video playback person was crucial. But I also keep stills, so I can lay the stills, and it's a frame grab, so I can actually lay the frame grab over things and make sure that they cut properly. Some shows are way more precise than others.
Yeah.
But,
everybody kind of does like the punch in and turn, and that was like
there's so many cool cuts you can do, but remembering the details and capturing those key moments is crucial for that.
Okay.
It's one of the fun things about the job too. I really enjoy.
If you're working on a shoot and there's an actor who's having a hard time like remembering their lines or just
That never happens.
is it like your responsibility to kind of walk in and help them, or do you wait on the director to kind of ask you to do this? Like when do you kind of offer to help an actor?
Well, you never. Yeah, it's a tricky little political thing, and it took me a while to negotiate that. Like if I notice that the shot's out of focus, I'm not going to scream, "Oh, that's out of focus," because that's somebody's job. You know what I mean? Like, and it might be out of focus for a lot of reasons. It might be out of focus because the actor keeps missing their fucking mark. It might be out of focus because somebody's going through a divorce and they're distracted. All kinds of reasons. Yeah. In France. But when an actor's, gone up, they can't remember their lines. I'll usually just say to the director, hey, this guy's having a little trouble or this girl's having a little trouble. Let me just, do you want to? And usually the director's got so many things going on. They're like, just get this motherfucker to get their goddamn lines right. Please, get them. And, and I just sit down with them and just run lines until they're comfortable. Run lines, just keep going. And I've done big shows where I'm sitting running lines with people constantly. I did a show called Person of Interest for years, and we'd have different guest actors come in, and sometimes, they'd be a big actor, but they just couldn't get their line for whatever reason. They just got the lines or they got rewritten the night before,
morning,
and they had them learned one way, and now they can't get them right. And that was one of the things I kind of specialized in, kind of talking them off the cliff. And oddly enough, I got to give a shout out to one of my favorite actors that I've ever worked with, a guy named Michael Emerson. He's in Evil now, but he was a principal in Person of Interest. And Michael is just one of those, besides being one of the kindest, most genuinely nice human beings on the planet, he actually has as close to a photographic memory as anybody I've ever met. He could learn 10 pages of dialogue sitting in the makeup chair and get it word perfect and fix the grammar in it too. Like he's that guy.
That's crazy.
I refuse to talk like this. I will talk with
No,
proper
he'll say,
English.
the verb and the subject don't agree. Like, he would but never a snob about anything. And he was kind. And so if you watch that show, and this gets into some of the weird nuts and bolts of what a script supervisor is often doing, Michael would be sitting in a control room, his character Finch, and it was either in a library in the first couple seasons, and then it was in a subway station. But he'd be talking to all the operatives out in the field. And so he might be talking to 3 or 4 people at once. I'm all those other parts. So because with TV scheduling, you're not going to get the other actors to show up to be off camera. In a movie, they try to, a generous, if you have a generous schedule and you have an actor who's generous with their time, they'll try their best to be there for off camera for the other actors, just so it's not a script supervisor reading. So, but I had a slight stutter when I still have a little bit of a little stammer, and reading aloud was never one of my strong points, but I got really good at reading aloud because of Michael, because Michael could just nail it. He just nailed it. And he could be in character, and he's basically reading a ton of exposition, what's going on, like all the technical details of this, case, whatever's going on. And he'd keep it fresh and real and alive and in the moment. And so it was just honoring the rhythm of that. And that really got me into the practice of, I was becoming a much better off-camera actor for the actors, to not distract them, but also to give them what they need to get to the next level of performance.
Because it's not just about giving them something to build off of. Sometimes it's a lot of timing too.
It's all timing.
Yeah.
It's really timing and rhythm. And and I'm a bass player. Like that's what I did in the music world. So it's rhythm. It's about rhythm, man. I can always find the one. That's my 2 strong points. I always know the downbeat, and I can take a fucking punch. So I'm really good. I'm good at this business because it's brutal business on
It's a
your
lot of
body.
that.
You know, I mean, one of the really beautiful things about this job is that you meet so many people that really love what they do. So when I got into the film business, because I was watching movies all the time, and I love movies. I just love movies, and I wanted to make movies. In fact, the first 15 years of my career, I don't think I did any TV. I just did movies. TV got a lot better in New York, got full of a lot of really good TV. But I just did movie after movie after movie, you know, because that's what I wanted to do.
I have a question about like eye line on set. Like, are you the default person if the eye line is questioned? Like, do they come to you?
As long as I don't fuck it up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you really are. You're the one that they come to. Like, they'll argue about it, you know, like, what side of the line are we on here? And I can explain it to them in a it took me years to learn how to talk to people about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they'll come to me, and I'll often just, I think one of the best bits of advice I could give to a young film person of any kind is to always know the people responsible for a thing and back them up and like protect them. So don't look at it like finding the mistake. Look at it like helping the people get it right. So if there's a costume problem, like I'll go to the costume supervisor and they'll be my best friend. And then if they notice something, they'll come to me and tell me, you know, because you can't catch everything. You can't catch everything. So you'll catch something and you got to just be generous and kind about it and help, and never throw somebody under the bus, you know?
I forget who we were talking to. It might have been Jeff. He was saying something along the lines of like, if you treat your crew right, they're going to be much more enthusiastic about helping everything look good.
Oh, yeah.
If you're pushing and rushing if they see a cable and they're like, well, it's not my job, it's somebody else's job. But
you never want to be on that.
you want to have that collaborative.
Yeah. And that's one of the nice things about working in New York, I think, too, because there's really, I mean, I've worked all over the world. People generally care. I don't want to work on a film set where people don't care because it's dangerous, too.
Right.
Yeah. We've all been there.
Right. So I guess the eyeline thing, really, I mean, we did talk about the 180 rule, but it's more than just like, hey, I'm looking at Mike, because when you're doing, it's a lot of when you're punching in for coverage and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of times that he might be there, but because of where the camera is, I've got to look all the way over here to make it seem like I'm like, is that something that you had to teach yourself, kind of like, or is it really you're just looking at the frame and you're like, not right. There
You just feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it. Like it'll just vibrate. Like it's like when you're tuning a guitar, you know, when you tune the guitar and you hit the right frequency and just everything just vibrates differently.
Just works a little better. Yeah.
Maybe I ate too much acid as a kid. I don't know, but that's how I think about it. Just
Too much acid, too much cocaine.
No cocaine. Never did the cocaine.
That's how you get good at eye line.
It's subtle. And there's different things too that are important, like composition of a frame too, like whether somebody's center punch, short-sided, traditional framing. So like if I do a close-up, like a Wes Anderson movie, right? Wes center punches everybody, or he does weird framing. Mr. Robot did a lot of short-siding where characters framed right and looking right, and it just feels disconcerting, and you don't see what they're looking at, and you can't feel it, and you're way inside this person's head. That was kind of interesting. Different balancing composition, like low angle, high angle, what that means emotionally, and you know, whether or not you believe it or not.
Right.
Sometimes they get these really cool low angle shots in television because that's the only place you can fit the third camera is down on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
Just stacking everything.
Yeah. But it means something. You know, it should mean something. It should feel something. So I keep track of that for people and remind them. And once a camera operator recognizes that I'm paying attention to that, like they become my friend too, because I can help them out.
Right.
Like, and they'll come to me and they'll be like, what am I matching to? Because sometimes the B camera will get the shot that corresponds to what the A camera shot on the other side. So Jonathan's coverage, like the tight eye line close up was shot by A camera. But when you come around to shoot me, B camera shooting my tight eye line close up, and then the far angle medium close up was shot, you know. So they switch. So they'll both come to me and look at the shots that the other person did. Because a lot of times in television, you don't even have video playback. So I took a still of that moment, be it with a camera or with, you know, my setup in Scripty. But you know, I can lay those two shots together, and it really feels like people are looking at each other, and it's reassuring to the director. And it tells a certain story visually, like that tension, so you understand it while you're shooting and you recognize I'm doing the right thing or I'm doing the wrong thing, I got to adjust.
When I guess this happens more when you've got multiple cameras, but there's always kind of like that time where you're saving time by doing 2 shots at once,
Yeah.
something like that. How do you like if this shot totally doesn't work with the eye line of the other one or something like that, like lighting gets compromised a lot because you can't put a light in this shot because now you're lighting that shot too. Do you kind of have to pick your battles for that kind of thing? You're like, it's okay if the eye line is a little screwed up in this because we have to get all this stuff, or do you kind of step in and say like, we should do this twice? Like, do you feel that that's your job?
Yeah. I mean, I think I get away with a lot more than a lot of people just because I've been doing it a long time, and I've learned where I can press it and where I shouldn't press it. It's my job to tell the director, or sometimes to tell the producer, like, look, we're not covered here. We really need to get this shot. And a lot of times too, I'm keeping track of stuff that we're going to pick up second unit, like on a big movie or TV show. Your schedules, you're not going to have time to get all the inserts of the cell phones and the other things. So I keep track of all that stuff so that we can go back and put it back together.
When they're doing like the tandem day of all the pickups,
I'll have a second unit person come on, and I'll have taken photographs of every shot that we're supposed to pick up. So it'll be what the director wanted, the composition, the size. And then it'll work. And sometimes the editors will have like a assembly edit that they'll give us for inserts.
Oh, okay. So like they've already done like a rough edit and they realize that you're missing a shot in the middle or something. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, because you're talking about script supervision for multiple cameras. What was a job where it was just like the most amount of cameras you've worked with, and how do you handle like that? Like, how do you handle like 6,
I just got
7 candles?
I don't know. I got that brain. I like that. I like the challenge of it. But it's like you focus on
They're almost like TDing at a point.
Right.
Well, I did 9 cameras on Block Party. It was 9 cameras. So I had like
Dave Chappelle's Block Party.
Yeah, that was a lot. But on Person of Interest, we've done more than that. On Westworld,
You did more than 9 cameras
yeah,
What?
for like a stunt?
for like a big car crash.
Okay.
Big car crash. So a lot of what I'm doing is walking around ahead of time and just charting out where all the cameras are, because I don't even be able to monitor like the GoPros and the other cameras. I just,
Right.
like cut them together. So I'll go there, take a picture with my cell phone of like what that camera's seeing, or take a picture off the little monitor that they have down there, because they're not broadcasting that. But we did car crashes in Person Interest, like 11 more, lots of cameras. I don't know. Black Swan did arrays. Like we did like those like 7 camera arrays plus 3 narrative cameras. So 10,
Wow.
12 cameras. So, but a lot of it is like, it's a fixed action. So I'm tracking the action. And if I know where the cameras are, I can focus on the main 2 or 3 cameras, and the other ones I know what they're picking up. So I can understand it spatially. I can't watch, I only have 2 eyes. I can't watch 9 monitors, but I kind of can. It's weird. I can interpolate it in my brain. It's like being a pipe organ player, like with the foot pedals. So you're reading 2 clefs and working your feet, right? And then some point you're flipping the sheet music too somehow. You just do it. And then I'm reading the off-camera dialogue. I'm singing the baritone part, too. It's kind of fun. I just like the challenge of it. Like people think it's weird. I think I found the job that suits my particular diagnosis, my place on the spectrum, whatever. We're all Rain Man-y kind of people.
Were you organized before you got into this?
Yeah, I'm a total, like, I notice everything and I'm always listening. Like, so I go out to a restaurant, I hear every conversation. It's kind of a curse sometimes, but my wife's like, you finally found the one job for your fucking inner asshole. It's like, she's like, stop fucking paying attention to me. Like, just stop it. You just pay attention to stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah. How hard is it for you to watch movies? And like,
no, it's funny. That's the funny thing. It's very easy for me to watch. I can totally let it go. If something's egregious and it like pumps me, but like watch like early Scorsese films, chock full of continuity errors, like really are, like big ones. Don't notice them until you watch a movie 10, 15 times,
Is that because
the performance is just so fucking
right?
good.
So it's if that's what you're paying attention to, you're not really watching the movie, kind of thing.
Well, that's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is like protect that great performance and don't distract from it. That's what I look at. Like I think we're all on the same team. We want a great performance. I don't want to compromise that great performance by being a nudge, but I also want to make sure that the director has what they need to protect that great performance. That's kind of how I look at it.
I would like to hear more about Dave Chappelle's Block Party, because like that doesn't seem like the typical coverage when you were describing it.
Yeah, because
It
that's
seems more like
It's like a documentary.
A documentary.
right?
I mean, it's really it was a concert movie, really. is what it
Yeah.
was. So Michelle Gondry directed. Ellen Kuras was the DP. We had 9 operators. I still don't think I met everybody who worked in the camera department that day. It was so many people. 9 sound mixers. So the sound mixers and
Wow.
I were up in a control room watching all these monitors. I had 2 4-cluster monitors plus an extra monitor for the documentary. Kind of remember there was like one backstage camera that followed Dave around.
Yeah.
So I kept track of that, but I also kept track of like, when Miss Lauryn Hill comes on, when's her wig fall off? Like all kinds of stuff. Her wig fell off, like blew off in the middle of that. It was just
Oh my
amazing. What an amazing performance that was. She was incredible. She has an incredible voice. It was, you just kind of do it. You figure out a way to do the job. It being a bass player was incredible training for being a script supervisor, because you're really the one holding things together, paying attention. You're not taking the spotlight ever.
Did you get called on that by a producer? Or
Yeah.
Okay. The producer was like, "We need someone to help us."
Yeah, and nobody kind of knew like what I would actually do. I had to kind of figure out what I would do on it. Michelle was like, "We have a script supervisor. Good luck." That's what he said. And then I never saw him again.
I mean, even the movies just kind of like, it feels just very like,
It's jazz.
yeah, very jazz.
Yeah,
where
it's-
they just like stumble into that guy's house and they're like, what is this house?
Yeah.
It's a weird. I mean, it was fun. It was
Yeah.
fun too, because mostly I was worried about the music aspects of it, but I could follow everything, and it was fun. And I didn't pee all day long. I never had lunch, and we started at like 6 a.m. Set up. We were supposed to have lunch before the concert started, and we just were late, and things started going, and it was raining then, and people are outside in the rain, and it was pretty magical. It was really cool. But I just worked, and I just worked all day long. And I remember we were done, and I was like, as close as I came as an adult to piss in my pants. I had to go pee, and and I was starving too, and it was like, but we did it. It was fun. And it wasn't even that long of a day because it was just the concert, but it was like, 9 cameras, just total focus.
Nonstop.
Was it all just one day of shooting?
Yeah, one day.
Wow.
I've done all kinds of really weird gigs. That was up there. And it's funny because it was one day, so I don't even really remember it. I have to watch the movie and be like, oh yeah, that happened. Yeah, I remember. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like overload input, like input overload.
You just so in the moment, you really have to be in the moment when you're doing it, which is what I love about the job. No cell phone.
I mean, you were essentially like, it's like sports casting where they're like watching 8-9 cameras,
Right.
trying to find the moment or even the moment right before.
Mhm.
So,
follow
but
the
not for a sports game, for a 12, 14 hour.
Well,
concert
it's similar though. I played football in college.
yeah.
Football, it's funny how much like those overhead grids for plays are very much like what we
Yeah.
do when we're shot listing, like
They're-
understanding
they're-
where people are in the
they're-
room.
They're like
Spatial
how I
recognition.
block.
Yeah.
I usually draw out the blocking map and then I kind of like show how the camera goes around.
X's and O's, man.
Yeah.
You just know where the camera is, know where the 180-degree roll is, and you can figure all kinds of cool stuff out. Yeah, that sports was great training. Music was great training for what I do, and then it's made me a better actor too, which I never really thought I'd be an actor, but I've acted in a bunch of stuff now too. So
Nice. What
On
stuff?
purpose.
usually because they need somebody who looks like me. I've had varying degrees of success where they like my voice. Like I did in the OA. Did you guys watch the first season of the OA? So I have a role in the OA. I'm a voice actor in that. I play BBA, like the main character, like one of the teacher of these kids in the story, like her brother. I don't want to spoil it, but the movie, the TV show played
a while
long time
ago.
ago. But I play her brother who left her a voice message, right before he dies. And I read the off camera, and the director called me like 6 months after we were done shooting. He's like, "Hey, you mind coming into Sound One and playing that role you did off camera before?" Like, I was really honored that he did it. So Zal called me up and I did the role. It was fun, and I got paid, for I did it. Take one he loved. It's like, do another one. Yeah. Thank you. That was it. go home.
Did
It
you have
was
to
fun.
make notes of your own performances?
No, I didn't have to make notes. I just had to act. It was great. And it was just, it was just a phone call. It was just like leaving, basically, a guy knew he was going to commit suicide. And he knew he had a kind of sadness and love in his voice, but he didn't want his sister to think that she had anything to do with it. And it was like, I just understood it, I guess. So if you have a little bit of empathy for what the other actor's trying to feel, it helped me find that. That's fun.
Well, I would say my last question is you kind of let it. What's the weirdest job you've been on? Because you said I usually take these weird jobs.
Yeah.
Like,
I've done a lot of cool, like good weird or bad weird.
I mean,
Because I've done both.
give us a good weird and give us a bad.
yeah,
weird.
give me a good
All
and
right.
bad.
Happy was weird. Happy was good weird. Because it was fun. Every day. So I'm doing all the shit I do for 2 or 3 cameras, but then I played the eponymous character. I played Happy off camera for Chris the whole time. So I'm there reading. There's an imaginary unicorn horse thing that's Happy. And they couldn't find a way to give him something to interact with. He's the only person that sees the character. Right. So there's all these scenes with complicated violence and action and everything. And there's this unicorn flying around his head saying shit in his ear. This is like super optimistic unicorn. And so, and I'm, I don't look the part, and I'm just like, but I played the voice. Like, I'll do the voice. I did the Happy voice, for him, because it was just the only way it worked. I just did it kind of naturally. And they're like, holy shit. So that was great. It was fun. So, oh, I'm happy. Oh no, you don't want to do that. Just weird shit like that. But you don't want to take away from anything for the actor, so you can get like mocky or silly, and you got to be careful. But I wanted to give Chris what he needed off camera so he could. And sometimes they'll bring in an actor to do that. Sometimes they'll look.
I was going to ask, because that's almost like a stand-in, and a stand-in is
No,
like a
it's-
second team.
It's even more than a stand-in because
Yeah.
you're actually acting. You're not just standing.
but that's
there.
not a SAG thing at all.
No, I mean, no, because I'm in the scene. I'm off camera. That's part of a script supervisor's job.
Right.
But I do get paid to do acting too. So in Happy, I play Captain Pancake. In I'm trying to remember my character voice for that. I don't want to die. I play like a giant pancake with eggs for eyes. It's fun.
The bacon smile.
It's fun. I never thought I'd be in front of a camera ever because, look at me for fuck's sake. But once you're not hung up about it, it's pretty fun. And I love actors so much. It's nice to be able to to play with them. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like music. It's fun. It's fun. You're playing.
Yeah.
We have cool gigs.
That's really cool.
Usually.
Yeah.
So does your voice end up on the show, or was it just for the reads on?
For what?
For
Mr.
Happy.
Pan-
Oh, yeah.
Mr.
No, I'm
Pancake.
Captain
Oh, nice.
Pancake,
Captain
man. Yeah.
Pancake.
I get my 3-cent residual checks from SAG.
Hell
I
yeah.
played a couple characters on that show. And in Fallout, I have a bit part. Look for me in Fallout. You'll find me. It's fun.
So what's the bad weird?
The weirdest gig I ever did was, and I can say it because fuck those guys. I was doing, I think it was for Novartis then, or some pharmaceutical company. We're doing these. It was a very high paid gig, but you were doing instructional videos for doctors or medical devices and stuff. And one of the products was an experimental drug for Huntington's disease, I think. No, for Parkinson's disease. It was Parkinson's disease. And while we're shooting the industrial was like teaching like the spouse of somebody suffering from Parkinson's disease how to administer this drug. And while we're doing it, the bicephalous beast from hell client back there was just making jokes about how like this, one of the side effects is it'll fucking kill you. Like it was killing people. Like they were
What?
joking about it. Yeah. And I was like, that's it. I'm never doing another fucking industrial.
Yeah.
Like that was the worst. They
That's-
were joking about the fact that one of the side effects is instant death.
That's wild.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. I was like, that's it. That was the bad weird.
Yeah.
That is weird.
That's
That's
just
bad
evil.
weird.
Yeah. That's crazy that they don't even consider
kinda
that. There's
just-
people on set like
That feels like
listening to you.
agency-esque, Yeah.
No, that's why industrials can be dark, man.
Yeah, you're
I
selling
don't
your
do
soul.
political. I don't do political stuff, and I don't want to ever do industrials again. I've done a few commercials that were fun, and I'm amazed on commercials like Here's a weird one, a good weird one too. It was a commercial. It was Prudential, and it was Sunrise in America. Right, that was the commercial.
I feel like
you've seen it. It's a big spot.
Yeah.
And we shot sunrise from coast to coast in the United States of America. I sat in Sound One, and we had film crews all over the country, starting like Montauk out to San Francisco, or maybe we had somebody in Hawaii too. I can't remember, but we had people filming No, it was Montauk to San Francisco. And so as the sun was coming up in these different locations, we filmed these different scenarios we had. And this was the early days of the Teradek Surf Pros, or I don't know if it was the Surf Pro. It was like a Teradek Cube probably.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they're feeding through the internet video signals from all these crews all around
Double lag.
the country. It was really cool. And so we did like sunrise, and we had little scenes set up, so like in Montauk's like a morning scene, and there's like a diner scene somewhere in the middle of the country, and they set these locations. So we rehearsed it one day and, saw exactly how the sun came in the window and all the stuff, and then shot it the next day.
And it wasn't cloudy.
I think in a couple places it was, but we went with it. And
Still,
and I thought we would have shot it both days, but we just shot it the second day. It was pretty ballsy.
Make sure that it's all the same sunrise.
Sunrise, yeah.
Continuity.
That's pretty cool.
Right. You only get it once, man. It was fun. That was a cool gig for a commercial. It's amazing to me how much money and time and resources. We had probably 300 people working on that job for a 30-second spot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. They still do the big budget commercials. Like they do them.
Yeah.
They're out there. I don't work on them. But
Was there ever a script for a movie that you passed on, and then the movie came out and you saw it and you regretted passing on it? Or have you been pretty good about dodging a lot of
let's see. Yeah, one. I mean, I didn't pass on it. I didn't get the gig. It was Lost in Translation. I really wanted to do that movie.
Yeah.
And I didn't even get to interview for it. Like I thought I was hired. I was coming in to meet Sophia, and the producer, I knew the producer, were friends, and he called me and he said, come in, you just got to meet her. It's going to be cool. It's her first movie. It's Francis's daughter. And she turned out to be an incredibly accomplished director. She's done some wonderful stuff, but, and I'm going to go to Japan, man. Somebody's going to pay me to go to Japan. And I show up early. Like I showed up here today, 'cause I'm from Jersey. I show up early, and, I'm like pacing around outside, and I had just gotten a cell phone. Like this was a long time ago. Like I didn't have a cell phone. I had a pager for years, I had a cell phone, and I got a call on my cell phone. It was from the producer. He's like, "Is Anthony Katagas?" It's a friend of mine, great producer. And he's like, "Yeah, sorry, man. Francis had somebody he wanted her to use. So the interview's not going to happen."
Oh, man.
I was like, "I thought I had the gig. Fuck." That sucked. But, mostly I've gotten them. I've been really lucky.
Is it always an interview, or is it just like
Not anymore. Sometimes it's like I just get hired because I know the producers and like, you need this guy. But usually it's like a meet. You come meet the director because they want to see you're not psychotic or you don't smell like a homeless person or something.
Yeah, because they're
like,
sitting next to you at the
Yeah,
monitor.
you got to
all the
be able to
time.
get along with them.
Yeah.
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 It can be weird sometimes. Sometimes I don't want I had one interview, and I will not say with who. And I got the job, and I was like, "Fuck this! I'm not working for that asshole. No way!" Like I just didn't like the director. He was just mean,
Yeah.
and he was laughing at me and shit. It was weird. I was
But
just
you like for the interviews and stuff, like you don't have to do like mock breakdowns or anything. Like you don't have to talk about like how you.
I don't know. No, I usually just talk to him about the script. I'm really into story and script, and if I'm taking the interview, I really like the job, Or sometimes I'll take the interview and I don't want the job, but I'll just do the interview just to do it, and I'll turn the job down, or I won't get the job because they'll sense that I don't want it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
There's no real.
Well, I mean, a lot of times you're reading the script like outside of. Yeah, we don't get Academy Awards for
Yeah.
script supervision. No, you're there to help them, so it's word of mouth.
Well, I feel like if I had a script and I'm the director and you come in and you're talking to me deeply about the script, that would sell me on it,
Maybe that's why I get the job a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of it's your reputation and your resume. Like once you've done a bunch of jobs, then they're like,
Well,
"Oh."
you can tell if someone's read the script or if someone's like actually.
The Cliff Notes.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
If I'm there, I'm usually interested in the script, or
Yeah.
I just read the script and I can talk to him about the script, which is fun. Make sure you can deal with the life, because it's a shitty, hard life, in a lot of ways. Like I'm blessed that I have an incredible. My wife and I just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. She is a sculptor, so she's cool with being by herself for long periods of time. Happy to see me when I come home, but it's really hard on your family life. I'd say your guys' generation is a lot better at sticking up for your life than my generation was. And now, you know, most of my friends are on their second, third families, you know, just how it goes. Because most people need the person to be there in their life. It's a hard life. It's not, you know, I'm working, person of interest, I work 80 to 100 hours every week. I worked every weekend. I missed kids' games. And when you're doing network TV, that's just hard. It's a drag. You know, it's better when you do these. I do like the streamers because you can do, it's a shorter run. Like I'm on a gig now that started, we'll be in our second week of shooting on Monday. Yeah, it's a.
You're thinking about episodes.
I'm thinking about next episode. I got a script to break down when I get out of here. You know, so that's a nicer on your body, and it's not so bad.
Yeah.
You know,
You might be the only person that said they like streaming better, ever.
Oh, I definitely do. Because, well, I'll tell you why. One, the quality of the scripts tends to be much better than network TV. Network TV, like you do any show for more than 3 seasons, you get into evil twins and garbage scenarios, you know, just like silly stuff. So network TV, you know, with a few exceptions, is shit. I'll be quite frank. It's crappy content. I don't want to deal with it. I prefer really good writing. And, you know, I've been blessed. I've worked on some incredible shows. The Sinner, Person of Interest was incredibly well-written network TV show. It was one of the rare ones. You know, Halston was incredibly well-written. Westworld was incredibly well-written. The Sinner was very, very well-written. The OA was incredibly well-written. I've worked on, I don't want to leave anybody out. I mean, every show I've done in the last 10 years, I'm pretty proud of.
You said this or coming up, like you're thinking about retirement. But you've got this software company.
Yeah.
You have more than just Scripty. Can you talk about some of the other products that you guys have?
Sure, yeah. We have Scripty, which is a digital script supervision software. It's become kind of the standard bearer for what we do. We just came out with version 3 of that, which is for multi-episodic workflow. So you can shoot multiple episodes all within the same file. And we're still crossing over from the it's called multi-unit Scripty version 2. A lot of people still use Scripty version 2 and the version 3. But then we have Scheduler, which is software for ADs, which blows the doors off of movie magic. I just haven't had time to really promote it. But they used it on Mr. and Mrs. Smith, the Amazon show. Doug Torres uses it. He's one of our representatives, too. He's a big fan. And there's a bunch of shows using that. And so when I retire from set life, I'll start promoting and teaching that. And then we have Costume, DH Costume, DH Hair Makeup, and they're all continuity based. They're like script based database systems for people who do their job in the film business. So I had costumers who loved what I was doing for script supervisors with the breakdowns and everything. Like, can you make something like that for us?
Yeah.
And so we built DH Costume, DH Hair Makeup, and then Department Head is another one. Which is for basically like stunt coordinators or VFX supervisors, anybody who wants to make notes based on the script. So it creates a database of the script, and then the parameters of the database change as the script changes. You can import new revisions and do that. But Scripty's still that's the main thing we do.
Yeah. Nice.
Hence the name of the company.
Does Scheduler do like call sheets as well? Or
and kick-ass call sheets.
Yeah.
And another thing I do, one of my other little sidelines, is I produced a movie when we had the shutdown. So I produced this movie called The Strange Dark with my friend Chris Messinio, who wrote and directed it. So we did everything with our softwares on it, which was kind of fun. I used it as like a little test project. So I AD'd the job and produced it. And I was able to do the breakdown and the call sheets and everything all in Scheduler, which was kind of fun.
So you're IATSE, you've AD'd, so you're DGA, you've written, sold scripts, you're WGA.
I've never been WGA. No, I did a
you're SAG. You gotta be a Teamster now. And
then I'm set. Then I'm fucking retired, man.
That's when you actually retire.
No, I only have my IATSE card. That's the only card I keep. The SAG card is kind of in limbo, but I never got WGA. I wanted to. I wrote for a Viacom show.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm old enough. Fuck those guys.
Fuck Viacom.
Scab fucking Viacom company.
Yeah, I mean they're
The worst.
gone now, right?
worst. Yeah, they should
just
be.
sold off all their shit.
Yeah. It was cool though. I mean, it was a good gig. I probably would have made more money managing a Gap than I did writing for that show, but it was fun. I got a driver. That was cool.
Yeah.
That was
nice.
cool. That was badass. Man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a gangster. I love that shit. The job of script supervision has gotten exponentially more complicated as I've been in the business. Like we talked about this earlier. You'd start out maybe a 24 or 30 setup day would be a huge day for a film shoot. And it's generally working with just one camera. And you're going kind of slowly because it took a while to light everything. It took a while to set the camera. And nowadays you can move a lot faster. You can get a more naturalistic, professional look with a lot of the new lighting setups that we have. Like we're not working with these huge units anymore. So it's cooler on set. It's more natural for the actors, but you can also move a lot faster as a camera crew. And you're shooting with 2 or 3 cameras all the time now too. So the job of the script supervisor became, okay, instead of tracking 1 camera for 24 shots, I'm tracking 3 cameras and we're doing 110 setups a day.
Mm-hmm.
And how do I keep track of all that? So that was what multi-episodic workflow comes in, was now you start crossboarding on top of it. So instead of just keeping track of one script, I'm keeping track of a whole series of a TV show. And I might shoot, like we did the OA. One day we did a shot from all 10 episodes in one day. So in the past, I would have to have 10 different
File.
10 different binders, now and when I did that was still version 2. So I had 10 different files open on my computer at once and I was able to do my work.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can have one file open and do the whole thing. So with Fallout, which was the first big gig I did it before we actually released version 3. I was able to keep track of the entire series of the show all in one file, which is really cool. Answer any question that the director had. Like, well, what happens in episode 3 when we're over in Vault 33?
Mm-hmm.
What's the last scene in Vault 33 in episode 3? Oh, okay, when do we go? What are we cutting from? What's that? And then plus the director on that would do a lot of tricks where he would just shoot stuff that he wanted to use in another episode.
Yeah.
While we're shooting, so like
a flashback thing or something.
Just because he was the boss, he could get away with it. But he's like, he knows and he wouldn't necessarily explain that to anybody but me, because I'd catch it and I'd be like, why are we doing this? And he'd be like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll tell you why later.
Everyone else is just going along with it.
Well, and you said you had 8 script supervisors on that?
No, I had I was the principal script supervisor, did everything I could do in that, but I had 5 different script supervisors come in to do second units over the course of it. Like when I was in Namibia, I had Beauty come out. She's a South African script supervisor. She's great. I had different people in New York. Like when I was shooting in New York, and then they would just add units like at the drop of a hat. So we were shooting at a reservoir, and it was just like, in the middle of nowhere, I get whoever I could get. And they might work on paper.
Right.
And I have to import their information into the file.
So that's what I was going to ask was basically if you have multiple people working on the same show file, does it kind of update everybody, or is it they all live in their own separate world and you have to put them in after?
Well, that's what version 3 does. It doesn't work on the cloud, but you can upload your changes to the cloud, and then the files you can upload and download to the cloud. So that's kind of how it works.
Okay.
So if I had my second unit person working in San Francisco, and then I had a VFX unit in Vancouver, we could all shoot the same scene in the same day. As long as our slatings were straight, we kept the right slating conventions, and we can just upload our changes, and we get each upload and download the changes everybody else is making, including the representative stills and everything. It's just a lot more.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, but it was fun. That was the last thing my business partner had done before he passed away. So he passed away about a year ago, May. And, I've had other developers come in and try to figure it out, but that was the complex thing, is how do you maintain the integrity of a file, not compromise the script supervisor's work, and still be able to work across distances in the same unit at the same time, and not have to be on the internet? Because I'm shooting in the Namib desert. There's no fucking internet there. You're not going to be on a cloud. You got to wait till you get back to the hotel room in Ludovitz, and then you're sending your stuff up. And we're shooting in the middle of the desert in Utah, and just there's no internet.
Right.
The internet isn't so. It's been fun for me to see, because I'm old. You get to see how things change. We started 2007. There was no iPad. As soon as the iPad came out around 2010, 11, I think it was, everybody wanted to be able to do Scripty on the iPad. But the iPad was garbage. The first iPad didn't even have a camera on it. You remember? And then they came out one with a camera, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess we could figure out a way to make Scripty work on it. We had to trick it out. Like, how do you import a Final Draft script into? There was no Final Draft for iPad. Yeah. Then how do you import the script into? We had to figure out all those things. So it was fun challenges. So my business partner, God rest his soul, here you go, Bob. This one's for you, buddy. He loved a challenge. I found the right guy. He loved the challenge. Like, figure out, how do you calculate ace of pages in the script? How do you do all these things? How do you import a Final Draft script into basically a fucking iPhone?
Yeah.
That's what an iPad was. How do you do it? And we figured it out. So it's kind of fun. And it keeps getting, and the iPads get more and more functional, so you can do more. And then the customers want more. So it gets more complex.
Well, Tony, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us about just like your years of experience. And it's awesome to hear just like how much you care about what you do, and like how much you enjoy troubleshooting in this masochistic industry to work in.
Well, thank you guys for inviting me. I had a lovely time.
And thank you guys for tuning in on another episode of Rap Drinks. We'll be sure to put Tony's info in the description and where you guys can find Scripty and all the other software. And catch you guys on the next one. Later.
Cheers. Yeah. Cheers.